Thank you very much, Minister Hoggard, for setting the scene. Why we need to put the Resource Management Act through a shredder. This government has had a hugely productive year in 2024. We've set some big wheels in motion and we've laid some important foundations for growth. And in 2025, New Zealanders and those looking to New Zealand from overseas are going to see some of the results of the hard work we've already done. But there's more to do. The Prime Minister has made the point very clearly. New Zealand, over many decades, has become a no culture. People who pride themselves as being pioneers, used to saying, yes, we can, found themselves tied up in red and green tape. Nothing exemplifies this more than the example that Minister Hoggard just gave of a council unable to issue itself a consent to get gravel out of a river, gravel that is a flood risk and needs to be removed, and gravel that will continue to build up in rivers because guess what? Rivers are at the bottom of the hill, that big hill being a big mountain like the Tararuas. These are natural processes and the resource management system needs to be fundamentally reformed so we can take advantage and make the best use of our natural resources, not find that we're trying to fight floods and fires and get things built with one hand tied behind our back. There's an example I can draw on in Auckland. Now, believe it or not, big cities like Auckland, over 1 million people, produce thousands and thousands of tonnes of waste every day. Now, some of my colleagues in the Green Party, they might say, well, what about zero waste? Why don't you stop it? Well, it turns out that despite all of their prayers to Papatūānuku, we haven't managed to be able to stop producing waste and putting it in landfills. And that is why Auckland needs a new landfill. Now, nobody wants a landfill next door. I know that because I lived next door to one, 200 metres from the machines for a couple of years. But modern landfills are needed. They're needed so we actually have a sanitary place to put waste that comes from our cities. The people wanting to advance the consent for the Auckland Regional Landfill have spent tens of millions of dollars, spent over half a decade trying to explain to regulators and decision makers what's going to happen if 5,000 tonnes a day doesn't have a landfill home. It can't be collected, your city's going to grind to a halt. So Steve Abel says, well, why don't we burn it? Can you imagine trying to get a consent for waste to energy under the current RMA? There are too many people allowed to object to these developments. These are absolutely vital pieces of infrastructure that we need in order to keep our cities operating. Too many people allowed to object on all kinds of grounds: spiritual, environmental, traffic. But in the end, these facilities have to be built. And it's not just landfills, it's renewable energy, it's bridges, it's roads, it's water and wastewater treatment plants that the resource management system needs to allow to proceed. That is why in 2025, in my role as Under-Secretary to the Resource Management Reform Minister Chris Bishop, I'll be working on replacing the resource management system with a system based on property rights. That recognises that our system is fundamentally broken, and while we can make some tweaks to the current system to ease the pain, we can't train the Resource Management Act donkey into being the racehorse we need to unlock economic growth. The new system will focus on property rights because when people have stronger property rights, they can say yes to investment, they can say yes to innovation and yes to hiring more workers based on being able to develop their property. Our replacement system is going to eliminate, as far as practical, the opportunity for every Tom, Dick and Harry and random to turn up and object to vital infrastructure and resource developments. Our expert advisory group has delivered a blueprint to replace the Resource Management Act before Christmas, and I look forward to working with Minister Bishop on turning that blueprint into a true reform based on property rights. It's that kind of initiative that is going to unlock our economic potential as a nation so we can get on with building, get on with developing infrastructure and unlocking our economy so desperately needed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.